Warning, the Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother ears.
Good evening and welcome to the Stone Age Gamer Podcast. I am your returning champion, Dan Ryan, and joining me tonight, as always, is bedazzled boxing glove wearing poor choice of cameo fighter, Kris Randazzo.
Knockout.
Last week we saw the first round of this year's Mania extravaganza, and it was such an extravaganza, we thought we'd continue on with the tournament. Plus, it'd be a really weird choice, like to begin a 64 seed tournament, do the first round, then stop. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility with this show, but still, it would be highly unethical, chicanerous, and dare I say, a duplicitous skullduggery. This week, we go from 32 all the way to number 1 with a bullet, the fighting games of all time. Tears will be shed, blood will be spilled, and more than one dude will be like, the computer's so cheap, man, it's spam or bullshit, my buttons were sticking. Pop your quarter on the bezel and let the world know you've got next, because the Stone Age Gamer starts now. Good evening, friends. This is episode 359 of the Stone Age Gamer Podcast for the week of May 21st, my daughter's birthday. How in the hell are you, Mr. Kris Randazzo?
I'm honestly in awe at the breadth of your vocabulary, or at least your willingness to put that many $5 words into a script.
Highly unethical, chicanerous, and dare I say, a duplicitous skullduggery. I was quite proud of that when I wrote it. I went up and told my wife. I was like, look what I wrote.
I had a similar experience today where I tracked down after a decent amount of time of casually looking, I tracked down a decent copy of the original Famicom version of Super Mario Bros. Complete in the box.
Nice.
It was a little while ago that I tracked it down, but since I ordered it from Japan, it took like a month and a half to get here.
Sure.
And it showed up today, and I just opened it up, and I'm poring over the like instruction manual and just looking at it and smiling ear to ear, and I'm like, look how cool this is. And Karen's like, you're such a nerd.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really proud of it because it's so cool. It's so fascinating. I'm working on this.
I nerd, sure, but like, yeah. You don't play D&D, so like, let's fucking pump the brakes there. You know, I mean, come on.
I mean, it's not like I bought it. It is specifically like I didn't buy this to plug it into my Famicom and play it. I can play Super Mario Brothers a billion different ways. I bought this because I've been working on this little mini collection that I wanted to complete. And I've been chipping away at it for quite a while. I have the original Zelda in Famicom Disk System. I got it at, I think, Too Many Games. One of the conventions that we did a few
I think
years
it was
ago.
Too Many Games.
And
I think so.
It was that or AVGC, I can't remember. But I picked that up. I had Kid Icarus. And then recently I tracked down Metroid Famicom Disk System. And then I picked up Super Mario Brothers. And the only one left to make it kind of congruent and to fit in with this thing is the Famicom version of Donkey Kong.
Right.
Basically, what I'm trying to put together, just this little mini collection of kind of like the first appearances of what I consider the foundation of modern Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
And, it made perfect sense with the 3 Famicom Disk System games, right? That's the first Zelda, the first Kid Icarus, the first Metroid, but
that's like the Holy Trinity.
Exactly. But you can't do the first Mario that way because Mario first appeared in Donkey Kong, which was in the arcade. So there's no real way to do that. I can't grab an arcade.
You could buy the arcade machine.
I can, but it's like, it doesn't fit on a shelf next to those things or anything like that. I can't frame it and put it on my wall.
Not if you're not willing to try. Jesus, Kris.
It's true. I know my own limitations.
I'm hearing a lot of negativity coming from you. I'm going to need you to come with the positivity this evening.
So what I did was I came up with a different approach to that. I just wanted to get Super Mario Brothers because, that's kind of like the first appearance of Super Mario, that universe. This was where the Mushroom Kingdom came from. Not necessarily the character Mario, but like, this is the world of Mario. It didn't exist before Super Mario Brothers. So I was looking just for the sake of it being symmetrical. They did eventually release that game on Famicom Disk System. Like, there's a version of that out there, but it doesn't match the other ones. Like, there's something the trade dress is different because it was kind of a later release and kind of weird to begin with. Like, that. So I decided to just go for the just the cartridge version of it, because if it's not going to match, then I may as well just go with the actual first appearance of it. Right. Let's go with the actual real original one. So I did. And then I got that, and I looked at the I lined them all up. I was like, there is no good way to make this a symmetrical shape because of the way this thing is because of the way this thing is shaped. It's just so much larger than the discs. Right. But if I had a second cartridge, cartridge, that would do the trick. And I've been since Jeremy Parrish did the most wonderful thing and put all of his videos in chronological order in playlists on his YouTube channel, I now just go back and poke through them in chronological order, which makes me happy. And one of the things that he keeps mentioning in the earliest ones is that the Famicom, the purpose of that unit, like the way it was designed from the ground up, it was built to be the ultimate Donkey Kong machine. It was built to play the most perfect version of Donkey Kong out there. That was anything else was gravy. Yeah, like that was it. This is what it was, just like the way the N64 was built for Mario 64, right? Right. Like, now we have this, we can do this, and now do whatever else you want with it. But like, that's the way the Famicom was built. Let's build the machine that can play the best game of Donkey Kong. So I look at it like, this is, none of these would exist without this. This is the first Famicom game. It's the premier Nintendo cartridge game. And it's just kind of like this little historical chunk that I have there of the basic foundations of what Nintendo is today. Everything before that would have been like, the Hanafuda cards and stuff. Right. But from that point forward, that was the piece of history for Nintendo's home console and the worlds that they eventually built that I became obsessed with and turned into the raving lunatic that I am today. So... and if that isn't the collector mindset in a nutshell right there of, I already collect these things, and now I'm going to come up with more reasons why I need different collections within my collections. Exactly. Now I'm at the point of like, all right, now I need to find things that I actually really want for a specific purpose. Like, there's no longer much in the way of retro games that I need to track down so that I have a way of playing them. Right. Like, that's not really an issue for me anymore. And you're not going for the complete set. You're not going for the entire released catalog of Nintendo games or Genesis games or whatever. No, I have no interest in that. That doesn't really mean anything to me. That would just mean I now have a bunch of games that I'm never going to play that I have no emotional attachment to. Right. This, however, is like, well, these are things that I really care about. It's like being a comic book fan and being like, well, my favorite character is Wolverine, so I need to track down a copy of Hulk 180. Right. Because, Hulk 181 is what everyone says is the first appearance, but there was a cameo in Hulk 180. At the very end. He pops in and he's like, oi! Because he was going to be British. Not everybody knows that. He jumps in and he's funny. Like, Ozzy, 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 oi, oi, oi. And they're like, oh, that's where they got that for the cartoon. It's very strange. It's all coming together. Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. And now I'm just looking for Donkey Kong. And if I can find a nice price on that someday. And then I kind of want to do something to frame them. But I want it to be able to, I want to be able to open it. Like, I want to put them in like a shadow box, but not seal them. Because I want to be able to open them and look at them. Because I love doing that. They're so cool. The Japanese instruction manuals and the stickers that come with the discs, like, they're just so neat. And I have a Famicom, but I don't have a disc system, and I'd love to get one that functions one day just to be able to experience, putting in the disc and seeing that run right for face to face. But I'm pretty happy with what I got. Anyway, before I go taking up all the rest of the time with all the other stuff I've been up to, what have you been up to? We want to get through this quick so we can get right to the brackets, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of bracketing to talk about. No, I've spent same thing as last week. I really haven't done anything other than Puzzle and Dragons and the show, really. I've been playing just exploring all the different modes on the show and trying to like level up the cards and doing the collections and all the different stuff. Just really like looking at all the different aspects of the game that I haven't touched in a while, and it's just what makes it what's really engaging for me, right, is as you're building your team to take on these different challenges and whatnot, like whether you're just playing online or you have specific missions to accomplish, you have different cards that you can get, and you can level up the cards, and some of the cards evolve from their rookie card to their all-star card, and it's just like this really deep, ridiculous, crazy thing that is that's just really, really fun. You know, I'm having an absolute blast with it, and it's one of those things where I'm definitely not going to get as into Diamond Dynasty every year as I have this year, right? Because it is a very it is a time-consuming mode, right? There's not a lot of time for anything else, so it is a very, very enjoyable thing, though. But then I've been doing a lot of preparation work in Puzzle and Dragons because there's a lot of stuff. It's one of the benefits of playing both the Japanese and the North American server for that particular game is that the North American server, by virtue of the fact that it runs 2 to 3 months behind in general, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, I'm able to prepare for stuff that I know that is coming in North America. Mm-hmm. So knowing that there's a bunch of like useful evolutions that are coming for things that require a lot of end game materials, I've been spending time, you know, like focusing on getting those. Like I want 30 of this thing and 30 of that thing, so that when the stuff hits, whenever it does, I'm ready and I don't have to wait for another event to come around where I can farm them and whatever. And then also just this past Friday, Demon Slayer started. The collab is, you know, like I said a minute ago, sometimes we're later than 3 months. The Demon Slayer collab first ran in Japan like 6 or 7 months ago, and it was really looking like, oh shit, like this isn't going to come to North America. That really sucks because there's a couple cards in there that do some unique things that are important enough that it makes some of the end game content easier. Doesn't make it easy. Like the current hardest dungeon in the game is Shura Realm 2, and it's absurd. It's absurd. Like what you have to do to get through this dungeon is absurd. And there was one particular card in Demon Slayer. Now I don't know shit about Demon Slayer. I've never watched it. I'm gonna watch the movie that just came out, which is what this collab is tying into, the Mugen Train. And I know it's super popular and whatever. Like, and I know Tanjiro. But one of the other cards is Inosuke, and he has this equip that does it basically makes any team that you want to run, any team composition, viable for this particular dungeon because of all the utility that it adds on the one card. So it was like, all right, I've got over 700 stones, and I've been sitting here waiting for, you know, either this or the Marvel collab to maybe come to North America. And here this is, so 200 stones later, and I got everything that I needed, but I've kind of hit that point in the game where it's like, all right, if I know something's coming and I want it and or quote unquote need it, I gotta set aside, you know, a stone budget or whatever, so I don't throw stones away at crazy things anymore. So, you know, I spent my 200 stones and walked away with a bunch of the chase cards and Tanjiro and Inosuke and a bunch of the other shit that I possibly could have wanted out of there. And then we got another 100 stones just for logging in today. So for anybody who wants to start playing Puzzle and Dragons, if you're a fan of Demon Slayer, if you log in and complete the tutorial stuff right now, You'll have 100 bonus stones, tutorial 100 stones. You can level up in the experience of a lifetime dungeon, and then clear the first story mode, which will give you another 121 stones. In like 3 days, you can have over 300 stones, which is absurd, right? I remember when I started, it was like, I got a stone a month. I was like, oh, fuck. That sucks. You know what I mean? And now you can just jump in and really be able to get a head start. And some of the stuff that is in Demon Slayer is very, very new player friendly. And they actually have a dungeon running right now that teaches you all the different mechanics. It's a true training dungeon, and it's like, here's how you make L attacks, and this is what rows do, and TPAs, and a void damage box, and all of the different things that I was trying to tell you about a month ago or 2 months ago or whatever, and you were like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. They didn't show me any of this. There's a dungeon in there right now that shows you how to do it. So it's very, very awesome. I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, really, apart from that, the rest of my time has been spent listening to the new Weezer record. I don't know if we've discussed just how much Weezer is my favorite band of all time, but they are.
I didn't know they had a new album.
Their new album, Van Weezer, which was supposed to come out, it was supposed to come out last year, but because of the pandemic and whatnot, got delayed. That's why they put out the OK Human record that came out earlier this year, or late last year. No, earlier this year. Van Weezer.
I did not. You said Van Weezer, and I was thinking of, like, you know, something like vampires or something, like Van Helsing. I did, and then I looked up Van Weezer. I was like, oh, Van Halen. That's even funnier.
Yeah, like this whole record is their homage to, like, rock bands that they grew up listening to. And what's nice about it is that it you can definitely hear, like, Van Halen and Kiss and those sorts of influences on there. But it's like an old school Weezer record. It's much more similar to, like, the Blue Album and Pinkerton than it is some of the other records that they've put out. And it's fucking wonderful. And I love it. I'm very, very excited about it.
Just as a quick note to anyone listening, I'm sorry for all the snorting and snotty sound in my existence. I inhaled a lot of pollen today and have been suffering dearly ever since.
It really has been disgusting here in New Jersey. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the country, because you should live in New Jersey. The rest of the country's terrible. Clearly. I've lived other places. Jersey's way better. Although Ohio does seem pretty cool. Like, I think I could fuck with Ohio. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we would... I feel like I'd get along in Ohio. I'd do all right. You know? I think I would. Yeah. But God, it's awful. It's awful.
It's been brutal, and I had my
throat's all scratchy, nose is all stuffy, eyes are all watery.
My second COVID shot was on Thursday, so Friday just didn't exist.
Oh, did it kick your ass?
It destroyed me.
Really?
For a day.
God, that's weird, man.
I got back
to
pretty much normal the next day. Like, Saturday, I was pretty much fine. Like, a little under the weather, like, vaguely, if I moved around too much, like, I was still hurting a tiny bit, but man, Friday was absolutely brutal.
That really sucks, man. I got my second shot and then went and moved furniture the next day.
Yeah, no.
Like, I was like, I
thought I was fine, because
no ill effects.
All the rest of that was Thursday morning, and then the rest of Thursday was like, okay, I mean, I'm still taking it easy, kind of, just to be safe, but everything seems fine about, you know, doing some yard work and stuff, moving some things around. And then, like, Thursday night happened, and things started to go south. I said, well, you know, maybe I'll be better by morning. I was not better by morning.
I was not. Yeah,
Spoiler alert.
That sucks, man. I'm really sorry. I had so little side effects that I questioned whether or not they actually gave me the vaccine. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I should probably be like, my arm was a little bit sore, but, like, whatever. I'm a strong, independent woman. I can deal with a sore arm. What's weird about that? My one of my very dearest friends from when I was a kid, my friend Andrea. She was actually, we got married in 3rd grade. It was wonderful. There was a very beautiful ceremony on my front lawn. And we never got divorced. So we're both cheating on each other with our respective legal spouses.
No, you just have an open relationship.
In the eyes of God and the shrubberies at Aberdeen Road in Williamstown, we are still happily betrothed. And she had her 40th birthday party this past weekend because we're all old people now. And we're all vaccinated. And like, what was it? Wednesday or Thursday? The CDC came out and they were like, fuck it. Basically, like if you're vaccinated, you're good, right? So, I mean,
which was clearly a great idea.
Sure. But
nothing bad's going to come of that.
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. But so I went to her birthday party on Saturday and all of us were there and we weren't wearing like everybody just jumped kind of headfirst in because we've been screaming this whole time of like trust the science and listen to experts, and the science and the experts came out and said you're cool, man. Like if you're vaccinated, you're good, you know? Like, don't lick each other's eyeballs if you're strangers, but like I've known these people for 30 years.
Yeah,
of course I'm going to
totally
lick their
good.
eyeballs.
It's the fact that they say if you're vaccinated, you're good. Okay, well then everyone who didn't want to get vaccinated to begin with or wear masks to begin with is like, yeah, I'm vaccinated. Prove I'm not.
Which is fine, and then they'll go out and get sick, and that'll be that, and whatever.
Yeah, I mean I'm vaccinated, so hopefully they don't kill anybody I know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm vaccinated, and it was just really weird being in a social situation where it was like, I can hug one of my dearest friends that, you know, I've known forever and say happy birthday, and I can give her a hug. And it was just really strange, but nice, and man, it was weird. It was a weird weekend.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm not that far off from stuff like that. In fact,
no, you're 2 weeks away, like a week away, right? You gotta
something like that.
You gotta wait
the
next
2
weeks.
Podcast I'm recording, the movie podcast. My co-host, I like saying that. My co-host Sean Doyle is going to be recording in my basement with me.
That's awesome.
Come here and record here, which is not only awesome because, you know, I'll get to hang out with Sean in person, but it's going to make editing a lot easier because his audio was off.
it was a Sean Doyle version of audio. So
Sean, he hosted Quizzo for years and years and years. And when the pandemic started, he started doing these like online Quizzo events, and he could not figure out how to make music rounds work.
Oh, that sucks.
He couldn't figure it out. We all figured it out for him and tried to explain it, but he just couldn't wrap his head around it.
Just couldn't make it happen.
So what he wound up doing was singing the music round for us, which was better and worse at the same time. Yeah,
no, that is most definitely better and worse.
Oh, fantastic.
Good times.
All right, let's see. What have I got cooking here? I said I was going to start The Secret of Mana. And it turned out that I was a filthy, rotten liar.
Yeah, we all know that about you. Not one person listening to this show thought you were going to start that. Not one.
I got weirdly sidetracked. I put the cartridge in, but beforehand, I had started up just because I really wanted something very action-y to play. Right. And Secret of Mana is not that, but I was going to start playing it anyway. I was like, well, I said this was the next thing I'm going to do, and I know I'm going to love this game since I've already really enjoyed the first chunk of it like 18 times. I don't know, just never finished it. So I'm going to do this, but I had started Mega Man X2 again.
Right.
Which we both discussed. I don't really like that game.
No, that game sucks on toast.
I had made some progress in it, and then John started watching me playing it, and he thought it was super cool because he wasn't playing it.
Right, yeah. That's where it all falls down, you see.
And so I was just like, I'm getting somewhere in this. I'm going to do this. So I got up to like this one of the Sigma stages, and some just complete cheap bullshit kept killing me.
But because I get it.
That's kind of the problem. That one of the main problems I have with that game is that it has some it's got shit design. Like the levels
it's not good.
Are bad.
Yeah.
There are some good ideas in there. There's some cool stuff in there.
Execution is lacking.
Yeah, like I said to somebody when I posted about this online, I said that Mega Man X feels like a game that somebody at Capcom wanted to make, whereas Mega Man X2 feels like a game that somebody at Capcom wanted someone to make.
Yeah, that's accurate.
So I stopped. I was playing that with John. I was, just getting frustrated towards the end of that game. You're like, this is just. It was this level where those stupid things start pulling the walls in at you.
Yeah,
and like you don't have any time to react, so you just have to do it, die, and then go back and do it again. And I was like, no, this is just obnoxious.
It's just not fun.
Let me take a few minutes to play Mega Man X, because he was like, we should make a playlist of the music in this game. It's pretty good. I'm like, this music's crap, son. You want to hear some good Mega Man music? So I booted up Mega Man. I went back to the menu, booted up Mega Man X, and I was like, check this shit out. And we were like, yeah, it's a good time. So we started playing it, and then I just beat the whole game in one sitting, because that's what I do. Mega Man X is one of my favorite games, and so I went through and I beat the whole game in one sitting, got the Hadouken and everything.
I was going to ask.
Of course. I learned something about that, though, that I always thought you had to get that thing and then exit out of the stage, the power-up, but you can get that thing and then die and just get that 5 times in a row.
Really?
I did not know that. I thought you had to do the whole thing. I've been playing the whole stage over and over again, and you really don't have to. You can just keep, die and then go that last bit. So that was neat. I learned that trick, made that go a lot faster, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to Mega Man X2, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cheat. Because I realized I don't have anything to prove. I just want to experience these games. I don't want to, and I kept dying on that level, and I made it to the boss, and he beat me because I didn't track down all the heart pieces or anything like that, because the way they're hidden in this game is nonsense. The way they were hidden in the first game, there was like, oh, I understand how to get this. Like, I can figure this out. There's a certain logic to how you get these things. And this one, it's just like, so you go to the end of I started looking up a couple of them, because it's like, all right, I'm going to look up where these things are, because I just need more health. And I got to one of them in, I don't even remember which stage it was. It's like, okay, so you have to go about 3/4 of the way through the stage, and then you need to use Wheelgator's power on this one section of the floor. It's not marked in any way, shape, or form. It's just you have to know it's there. Or you have to have found the helmet upgrade and just happen to use it at this one exact spot, so it'll show you there's something hidden there. Because there's no change in the floor, it's just a standard floor that you have to use this one power-up on, and you just have to know it's there. And that's when I decided, you know what? I'm just going to look up some passwords. Good. So I found a password for all the Robot Masters beaten, all the parts gotten, all the everything done, just starts
everything.
It starts you right at the beginning of the Sigma stages with all the power-ups. Cool, done. And then I did it that way. And I finished Mega Man X2, and I got to Sigma, and he showed up with Wolverine claws. I'm like, dude had a lightsaber in the first game, and now he's got Wolverine claws? Step down, my friend. And then, like, I beat him, and I expected something cool for his second form, and it was dumb. It was a little wireframe head that kept floating around and barfing lasers at me, and then like enemies kept popping out that I could kill and get health back. So I beat him on my first try. I beat both forms of Sigma, first try, no problem. And like after the first one where you fight him with the lightsaber, and then like his head floats up and this giant wolf monster thing fills the room, and you got to fight that, and it's legitimately difficult. Yeah, this was
the first one's really tough.
This was not that at all. The game itself is way harder than the first one because it's bullshit. But then the Sigma boss was like, man, what a letdown. This ain't great. Like, I appreciate the ideas that were in there. I appreciate some of the interesting like powers that you got. There's cool ideas, but the overall execution, Mega Man X2 just kind of sucked, and I was really unhappy with it. But I moved on to X3 because I hear lots of good things about X3. Like, some people like X3 a lot. Some people are like, well, it's better than 2, and I can confirm it's better than 2.
It is in fact better than 2.
It's nowhere near in like the same stratosphere as the first Mega Man X as far as I'm concerned. It's just it's solid. I'm having a good time, and I didn't fart around with this one at all. I played the intro stage, and then I quit, and I found a password thing online to get me all the stuff straight off the bat, but none of the Robot Masters beaten. So basically, I'm playing it like an NES Mega Man game.
Yeah,
because I'm not
okay.
looking for all the weird stuff. I'm getting to the bosses. I'm figuring out what their weaknesses are and going from there. Like, that's how I'm rolling through this one. So that's been pretty fun. And after I beat that one, then I get to play X4, which everyone says is one of the best. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I don't know that I've ever played X4.
I have not played X4. I mean, I surprise, I own it for both PlayStation and Saturn, but I've never played it for more than a couple of minutes.
I don't know that I haven't. For a while there, like, there was, because I didn't play a lot of the Mega Man stuff, because that was kind of when I fell out of gaming for a little bit. So when I got all of that, I kind of got it all at once and was like, I'm going to play every game right now. And then, and they all just kind of blended together. You know what I mean? Which is unfortunate and not indicative of the quality of the games in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, like, I'm sure I have I had to have played it.
Well, I kind of avoided it because, everyone said, oh, it's really good, but X2 burned me. I was like, X1 is a masterpiece, and then X2 is just such a huge step down from just overall feel and cohesiveness and music and everything. I just kind of got turned off from the series after that. So I'm really glad I'm making myself do this now. It's really the kind of game I'm in the mood for. And I think after I'm done with this, Secret of Mana is going to be a really good change of pace, because that's where I'm going next. We'll see how far I get through the X games, because,
X games.
After I beat X4, then I got to do X5 and X6, which I hear are not great, and X7, which I hear is just legitimately bad. Like, at least X2, I can appreciate a lot of things. Then when it comes to X7, apparently that one is just plain old bad, and then X8's supposed to be surprisingly good.
I believe that I hated, like, 5, 6, and 7. I think
most people do.
That sounds right. And then I don't believe I've played 8. And that was the last
7,
one, right?
Yeah, 8 was the last one.
Right.
So, I don't know. We'll see how far I get in this before moving on to something else. I might even, take a break after X4 and move on to Secret of Mana, or I don't know. We'll see. I have no solid plans, whatever. But we are still playing the Metroid games. We are still on Metroid Prime 2, and it is still very good.
That's awesome. John's still enjoying it.
I play when he asks to play, which is almost every day. So,
which is all the always.
Yeah, all the always. He's still like, he wrote a paper in school today about Metroid. This kid, like, getting him to write at all has always been difficult. He has issues with his hand and stuff like that. We needed to get him the things to strengthen his hands so that he would write more, because he just doesn't enjoy writing. Right. But then we found out that he's just like me. It's not that he doesn't enjoy writing. It's just he doesn't enjoy writing your crap. He wants to write what he wants to write. He's written books about the Mario games that we were playing before. Like, he told the story of Mario 2 and Mario Galaxy, in picture book form that he drew, and he wrote and illustrated the whole darn thing, stapled them together with pages and pages of text. It was awesome. And he came home from school today. He wrote a list of every Metroid enemy he could think of. And it was one sheet of paper, but it was full front and back.
Yeah, he's your kid, man.
Yeah, man. It was awesome. So proud of him.
That is your kid.
So we're probably about 3/4 of the way through Prime 2. We just got to we're not at the Sky Temple. We're at the Sky Temple's the last area. We're at the one before that, the one where all the robots start attacking you. And I forgot how, 1, kind of annoying the music is, but 2, awesome the enemies are there. I got to this one spider robot thing where you have to shoot its head, but then it does this thing where it picks up its legs and spins around like a top, and you have to roll into Morph Ball and charge it with the boost ball, and that'll make it spring its legs back out, and then you roll under it and plant a bomb under him and blow him up. It's just cool.
That is cool.
This game is so freaking good, man. they have got to find a way to get this on Switch with regular controls. I know there was like some ex-Retro employee saying that Prime 3 would be hard to just port right to Switch, and I agree. It would be hard to just straight port it. That's why you don't do that.
Right. That's why that's not what anyone is suggesting, asshat.
Yeah, take that.
Don't be a dick.
Well,
Come
I think
on.
that's the thing, that people are suggesting that. Like, everyone's like, just drag and drop it on Switch. It's done. Just do that. Like, no, don't just do that.
Yeah,
Take that game to its basics and install regular first-person shooter dual analog stick controls to it. That's what I want.
Call up Sony and see if you can borrow Blue Point for a little bit. They do really good work on that kind of shit.
You know what? What's their name? Panic Button does really good work on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've messed around with Doom at all on Switch.
I have not.
The incorporation, like they did really solid incorporation of motion controls in that. Like that gyro with the classic controller.
Yeah.
Basically what everyone's asking them to patch into the other versions of Doom. They're
Right.
like, look, this game doesn't look great on the Switch. I mean, I think it looks fine, but it looks way better over here, but it controls better over here. Your controllers have gyro built in. Could you please do this?
Could you do that, please?
Right, because then, you know, that kind of fixes the other versions too. Basically, it controls like a regular FPS, but then you can fine tune your aiming with slight gyro sensing. You know, apparently that's the way people want to play first person shooters, and I don't know. It sounds pretty good to me.
That's, I believe, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, and you know, like I'll ignore you if you do. But I believe that is how it's done. Like that's much more akin to PC, right? To a keyboard and mouse, right? A little bit more precision in what you're doing.
A little bit, like it's. I first experienced it in Breath of the Wild on Switch, where you would draw the bow and then you'd get the camera basically where you want it with the right analog stick, and then you could fine tune with the like, okay, now I'm here, and then I'm just going to tilt a little bit there. Like, it just seems to work really well. I don't know. Make the Metroid Prime trilogy do that. I don't care.
You cowards.
And you know what? I'm not even suggesting they drop the trilogy on Switch, because playing through the trilogy now, I'm remembering some of the weird issues that the trilogy has. It, because it was all condensed into one thing, there were a couple of, like, in the first game, there are some special effects that are just missing. Like, the water effects are gone. You used to make waves when you go through the water. They took that out.
Right. To squeeze it down onto one thing?
Exactly. Some of the menus, like the title screen sequences are all gone. Which is, usually that's not that big a deal, but the title sequences in the Prime games are actually really cool. So, like, when we get to play Prime 3, I'm probably not going to play it on the trilogy. I'm probably just going to grab my copy of Prime 3 and put it in the Wii U instead, because I'd rather just have that title screen there instead of going through the Prime Trilogy title screen, which is fine, but it's, there were a couple of things that there were a couple of corners that needed to be cut to make it one package, and I would rather lose that. I would rather pay to buy these games individually than to get an amazing deal on the trilogy but have it be somewhat compromised. Because, like, if they put Metroid Prime in proper widescreen, like, not, and without the HUD stretched like it is in the trilogy to make it widescreen, like actually redrew the HUD to look proper in widescreen in HD with proper dual analog controls, I would absolutely pay full price for that.
Right.
Like, without question, that game is worth $60 remastered to that degree. And that's what those games, each individual one, deserves, is a proper remastering like that. So yes, it would be cool to get all three of them in the trilogy, but I kind of feel like if you're going to release the Prime trilogy like it was on Wii U, it's not going to be good enough. Like, those games really do deserve the full treatment of being individual things. That's at least how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree.
I'm not crazy about dropping a bunch of money on each one of them, but you know what? I'll do what I have to. I think that those games deserve full individual treatments. Like, yes, it would be cool to get them all three remastered properly and chunked together, like Sony does sometimes with their collections. But
yeah, sometimes they do a really great job, and then other times they Sony the shit out of it.
But the thing is, when you look at something like the God of War collection or one of those Ratchet and Clank collections, they're not requiring fully changing the way they're played, right?
Right.
Like it's a PlayStation controller to PlayStation controller. These games need to be like the control scheme needs to be reinvented, because with Prime, like you either have the motion controls, which I assume would be the easier thing to adapt, because then really all you're doing is adapting the pointer to a right analog stick. Whereas I wouldn't want them to re-release it and then have to play it like I did on GameCube. I don't ever want to play a game like that again. I don't know how I beat that game with those controls, because I can't do it now. I tried it, and it feels so unnatural moving around in an FPS with a single analog stick. It just feels completely unnatural to me.
Because it is. It's not a good way to do it.
It's weird. It worked then. I beat both Prime and Prime 2 on GameCube, and I didn't hate it then. But man, going back to it now. Anyway, real quick, I finished the Iwata book.
How was it?
Book. It's great. It's really short, so naturally it took me forever to read because I'm terrible at reading books. I kept falling asleep, but it's really good. That guy was fascinating.
Yeah, he was an interesting cat, man.
It's all these different stories about, like, his whole philosophy was just about trying to make people happy and like figuring out what makes them happy. Like, it was almost disheartening, because you think about how much better everything would be if more of the people in charge of giant corporations were even half the man this guy was.
Yeah.
Because like there was no greed involved. It was just, I want to do the best I can at this job, and I want to figure out how to make people happy. Like, it was fascinating to read. So of course, he dies and Bobby Kotick is living the dream, but what are you going to do? It was a super cool book. There was one bit at the end that kind of made me just infuriated. He was talking about the original development of the Wii, and he's like, but we had to make sure that it worked on the ideas that people are going to be playing it on these big flat screen TVs. So we really made the system with physically with that in mind. It's like, but it's not in HD.
Yeah, it's not.
You very specifically mmade this not for that TV.
Yeah, you swing and a miss, man. Swing and a miss.
How dare you? I was so mad. It's like I see what you're saying, like physically, like with the swinging of the Wii remote and the way it interacts with a television, it interacts with televisions of that size. Well, that was the point, but you forgot to take into consideration those TVs were HD.
Yeah, they really were. They really were HD.
Last really but not least, though,
could have done something about that. Anyway, yeah.
Earlier today, Nintendo released an overview of that new Mario Golf game.
Yeah,
it looks amazing.
I did not see anything about it because I was playing the show. If we're just being honest,
it looks so good. It's not overdoing it on the whole like powers thing, unless you're playing in that crazy competitive mode, which looks hilariously fun. Mm-hmm. Where you take a bunch of people are literally playing golf at the same time, the speed golf.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's just a fantastic thing. But like they're showing off some of the super moves, and Waluigi's super move is like he does this incredibly flamboyant pirouette. They just went so crazy with this, and it's got a full story mode, and it looks really nice, and I am so into it. I'm really excited about that game. And
that's awesome.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right. Well, I think that puts us at break time, Kris.
It does. It puts us at break time, so I can go get some tissues because I'm snot fountain over here.
All right, well, we're going to take ourselves a break. You sit back and enjoy some commercials, and then stick around for the second half of the Mania extravaganza right here on the Stone Age Gamer Podcast, brought to you by our friends, which is, I mean, they really are. We're all friends with them, at geekade.com.
And now, here's a quick look at some of the other original content available now from our partners and Geekade.com.
First up, puzzle games are just the tits, but we here in the United States have missed out on a fair few. Which ones are keepers, though? How do we determine these things?
I don't know, Dan. How do we do it?
Well, see, thankfully, Kris, the fine fellas over at the Weekend Rental Podcast, you know them, those old chestnuts, they have a surefire way. Buy, rent, or burn. Will Mario's Super Picross make the cut? Well, they damn well better, because that game is great, says Kris. Plus, crazy cool garage sale finds, discharging G.I. Joes, which is a medical condition that I believe you should have looked at, some old movie talk, and a whole lot more. When you say old movie talk, do you mean talk about old movies, or like high pants and tight trousers? Like, is that what we're... Like, man, see? Man, she was fucking in the thing. Like that kind of old movie talk?
I don't know. I haven't listened to it.
Man, she was a dame, see? Like that sort of thing?
Yes.
The dame was a bird. Plus, crazy cool garage sale finds, discharging G.I. Joe, some old movie talk, and a whole lot more. Don't miss the Weekend Rental episode 99. And feeling fine, the gamers Picross it off the list.
Next
anything that can make me Peter Griffin, I'm very excited about. Just anything that, meh.
Next, you may remember a few years ago, if you've ever been to our Too Many Games Buy Something Will Ya panels, then you may have remembered...
Also, our Too Many Games live sex shows. They're great.
Those are great too, but unrelated. Those are later at night.
That's right.
Where we buy random stuff from the show floor and see if we can find the weirdest things. I've picked up a fair few things, and two of the most memorable things that I've picked up are the trash can full of Game Boy Advance e-readers and the Sega driving system, which was a Japanese... I'm ad-libbing this one in case you can't figure that out. I'm trying to find the real name for it because I got rid of it and I keep... It's the Sega... Where is it? That's the video! Don't bring up the video! Bring up the card! Shut up,
this
me!
Is such an effective commercial.
I just took it off my desktop, too. Sega Video Driving System. That's what it is.
Isn't that what you said?
I don't know. Is it? I'm not. My head is full of snot. All I see is snot.
Gross.
It's just in front. It's coming out my eyes. It's
gross, but kind of hot. Like in a weird way. In a like, I mean, I didn't think I was, but like in an internet unzips kind of way. Like
resigned. I guess this is happening now. So the Sega Video Driving System is this wacky steering wheel peripheral that attaches to a plastic thing that attaches to a car that drives back and forth in front of your screen. I talked about it on the show last week. So I made the video, and the video also determines the current fate of the trash can full of e-readers. It's a fascinating watch. It's the most ambitious video I've ever put together, which is to say it's on like an 8th grade level. And
like an after-school science fair level.
Yeah.
You know, like where mom and dad helped.
Most of the stuff on TikTok is of higher quality than what I do.
Man, TikTok's pretty great, though. Like, that's a high bar.
It kind of is,
There's some really good shit on TikTok. Like, don't fucking disparage TT. Come on now.
I'm not disparaging. I'm disparaging me.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
I'm saying
you suck.
That TikTok videos
terrible.
don't take an extraordinary amount of time and money to produce.
This was an $8,000 budget for this shoot. You guys have to watch it, or Ryan's going to be really mad.
If you want to know more about this, and, you know, what it looks like to see me crawling around on the floor trying to work a VHS player and Japanese tapes, check out the latest episode of Stone Age Gaming, Sega Video Driving System, available now on the Stone Age Gamer YouTube channel.
Oh, finally. After all that finally, the Dragon Quest franchise just turned 35. And to celebrate, Matt and Kris, that guy over there, spent some quality time with the Dragon Warrior soundtrack. What's the difference between Dragon Quest and Dragon Warrior, because the W and the A are capitalized in that one.
I was having an allergy attack when I typed this.
Dragon Warrior. Probably nothing in terms of music, but just to make sure they knew what music they were talking about, they went with calling things Dragon Warrior. It's one of, literally, in all seriousness, one of the most important JRPGs ever created. And while it's pretty rough around the edges, you still would, but 3 drinks, its music is as legendary as the game itself. Check out Waveback episode 128, Dragon Warrior.
For all this great content and more from us and our partners, be sure to keep your eyes on Geekade.com.
And we're back to kick off the Thirsty 32, the next round in our Mania tournament. Last week, we went through the Sexy 64 and whittled the list down to 32. So what we're going to do this week is we are going to take the Thirsty 32, transform that into the Sweet 16, further cut that shit down to the Elite 8, the Final 4, and our number 1 with a bullet fighting game of all time. All right. So we got a lot to cover. Some of this is going to go quick. Sweet 16 is where it's going to start to require some deeper conversations, I feel. My buddy Rob has again given us his picks for the Thirsty 32, and I don't fucking have him on retainer or anything, so Tiff is standing by with her cell phone for a text message of, hey, flip a coin, it's going to be this or that, okay? For anything Sweet 16 and on. That's the scientific tiebreaker that we've come up with. And by we, I mean me. Starting in the Northwest region, Chris, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. We have the... Oh, man, I didn't copy over the numbers. I should. All right. We have the 1 seed Soul Calibur on the Sega Dreamcast, taking on the 8 seed Skullgirls.
Soul Calibur,
right? Not a competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet 16 is where it's going to get difficult, Chris.
I mean, no offense to Skullgirls. I'm sure.
No. Skullgirls is great, but it's not Soul Calibur.
But it's not Soul Calibur, yeah.
Yeah, it just isn't, and that's okay. We have the 2 seed Super Smash Bros. Melee taking on the 7 seed. I mean, maybe there's a conversation here, Chris. I don't know. Soul Calibur 4. Is there a conversation there?
If it was if it was Soul Calibur 2, we'd have a conversation. But Soul Calibur 4, I don't think stacks up to Melee.
Okay. Well, then, let me go ahead and move that over then. Sorry, I'm trying to put in the other numbers because I'm a terrible host. This is why you don't want me to do this, Chris. This is really why. Super Smash Brothers Melee, I believe is how you pronounce that. All right, we have the 3 seed. Now this will be, I think, a little bit of a conversation. I know where my heart lies on this one, and I know where some of our listeners' hearts are going to lie on this one, but it's really going to come down to your black heart, Chris. DOA 2 Hardcore, the 3 seed, taking on the 6 seed Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves.
I think it's got to be Mark of the Wolves.
Okay.
Dead or Alive's cool. I mean, and I really enjoyed it, but I have not gone back to that game. I picked up Mark of the Wolves for the first time right after they put all those games on sale on Switch after they announced Terry and Smash.
Yeah.
And I've gone back to that game several times. A couple months away, you know what? I want a 2D fighter, and I don't feel like Street Fighter. Let's do this.
Let's do Mark of the Wolves because it's great.
And it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
gotta go
that's our upset in the Thirsty 32. The 6 seed takes out the 3 seed. That's where I was going too, right? I mean, because DOA 2 Hardcore is probably the best of the DOA games.
At least it's the best of the ones that I've played.
Right, and I mean, I'm sure there would be some argument from somebody about that, but they're not hosting this podcast, so fuck them. All right, the final matchup in the Northwest region, the 4 seed Super Street Fighter 2 HD Turbo Remix taking on the 12 seed Custom Robo Arena.
Not even close.
Again, I don't even think that's a competition. But
Custom Robo all the way.
Oh, God, 100. Why is that? I don't know if that's funny to anybody else, but it's funny to me every time.
Yeah, man. Street Fighter.
Yeah. Okay.
It's freaking Street Fighter, man.
All right. Next round is tough. All right. In the Southwest region, we have the number 1 seed, Tekken 3, taking on, I mean, maybe my favorite game in this entire bracket, the 9 seed, War of the Monsters.
I think War of the Monsters is infinitely cooler than Tekken 3, but I don't think a reasonable argument can be made to say that it's a better fighting game than Tekken 3.
Man, I don't think so either, but just to be contrarian, I'm going to see War of the Monsters so that we have to go to the tiebreaker and see what Rob said. Because I don't disagree with anything that you just said. I, however, want to very strongly disagree because of how much I love that game.
Fair enough.
And because we have a tiebreaker, I can do that. So let's check the I don't know, the instant replay. How do we want to frame this? Whatever, it doesn't matter. All right. Rob has said Tekken 3, and he is dead to me now. 35 years of friendship gone. Fuck that guy. I don't even know if he's listening to this episode. What a prick. I mean, no, you're not wrong. Like, Tekken 3 is arguably in like the top 10 most important fighting games of all time, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm told. I don't particularly have any love for that game, but I have to appreciate it. Like, it's very good. It's Tekken 3.
It's Tekken 3. It's great. It's fucking Eddie Gordo, man. It like man, I can still, I have vivid memories. And right, Rob and I were actually talking about this at that my friend's birthday party that I went to. Because I was telling him, you know, like, dude, I need you to do the next round of the list or whatever. And he started talking about how when I think we were juniors in high school, my school trip was down to Busch Gardens and King's Dominion in Virginia. And it was awesome, right? Like, we all went out and like there was tons of making out on the bus on the way down there. It was very sexy. And when we got there, like, we were going on all these rides and stuff and having a great time, but then we walked by an arcade and they had a Tekken 3 machine. And I probably spent 2 hours just beating randos who were on vacation coming in and being like, oh, I'm fucking great at Tekken 3. Are you? All right, come on, let's do this. And like, that was how I spent part of my junior class trip, was just whooping people's ass in Tekken 3. That game was fucking great. All right, the 2 seed, Soul Calibur 2, versus the 10 seed, King of Fighters 13. Again, I don't even think that one is a competition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of experience with King of Fighters 13, but I have a lot of experience with Soul Calibur 2, and that game's amazing. That
game is amazing, and it's amazing on each platform for different reasons, right? Gamecube definitely got, I think, the best fighter.
Yeah.
I don't know that Link is the most interesting fighter.
Oh, I think he is. He brought projectiles into that thing, for crying out loud.
I mean, I would argue that Heihachi is a more interesting choice. Not a better choice, but definitely a more interesting. Oh, this guy in a weapons-based fighter? Yeah, he doesn't have any weapons. He doesn't need them. Like, that's an interesting choice. Well done, Namco.
Fair enough. It is an interesting choice.
Good for you guys. And then,
but, you already
Xbox had Spawn
in there,
right?
Uh-huh.
Spawn was cool.
Yeah.
And then who was the McFarlane created guy?
Necrid.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, no. Necrid wasn't great. The rest of the game was.
The rest of the game was great. Absolutely great. All right. Continuing on in the Southwest region, the 3 seed, Marvel versus Capcom 2, taking on the plucky upstart 11 seed that has just no chance. I mean, this is like Rowan going against Duke in basketball. Like, this is how much of a shit show this matchup is. The 11 seed, Bloody Roar, Primal Fury.
I'm sorry, Bloody Roar.
I come on. Bloody Roar against Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
That's not even close.
Nobody with a straight face could even tell you that Bloody Roar is better. Like, it just isn't. The final matchup in the Southwest region, though, Chris, is an interesting matchup. Games that came out around the same time have a similar vibe. The 12 seed Killer Instinct and the 13 seed Mortal Kombat 2.
Mortal Kombat 2.
Mortal Kombat 2. Not even a discussion.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Killer Instinct is super cool, but the thing about Killer Instinct is that if you don't know combos, like it's just basically that boils down to learn combos. Whereas Mortal Kombat 2 has this real basic, like, this is just fun to play on its own. Like, you got a couple of moves and have fun, and Killer Instinct is awesome. I love Killer Instinct, especially for just, talking the arcade version. But Mortal Kombat 2 took, like, everything the first game did and really just knocked it out of the park. Whereas the first one was an okay fighting game, dressed up really cool. Mortal Kombat 2 had a really good foundation. Like, it's a fun fighting game to play with other people. And Killer Instinct is hard to. It's one of those things like, oh crap, I don't remember how to do anything, and then you go in there and you feel like you're mashing buttons and nothing's happening, and that you're capable of doing really cool things, but you kind of have to get there. Yeah. Whereas Mortal Kombat 2 is like, Mortal Kombat 2 is great. Yeah, that gets my vote.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. I thought that was going to be closer than it was, but that's a very, very, because I remember being good at Killer Instinct. Right?
As do I.
So I'm thinking about it as I was good at it. But you're right. If I jumped into Killer Instinct right now, I wouldn't know how to do shit. Like, I could pick Jago, I could pick Orchid, I could maybe do a move or two and string maybe a couple hits together. But, like, I'm not doing any ultra combos like I used to do.
And at the end of the day, like, you knew how to do that stuff because you really went in and learned it, but it wasn't natural. Like, it wasn't like you sat there and like, okay, I'm going to experiment with these different button things. Like, you learn, at least for me, it was
looked it up in Nintendo Power and memorized it.
Yeah, you memorized how to do those specific combos, and then you try to do those specific combos. But when you really break it down to,
like that, and Mortal Kombat 3 started to get like that. There were very
Mortal Kombat 3 almost seemed like an answer to
Killer Instinct, which I never even considered that until just now. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, I'd never even thought about it like that. Because you're right, even in Mortal Kombat 3, a lot of those combos don't feel like natural button progressions. It's just like I gotta click, 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 right?
But one thing I will say about the combo system in Mortal Kombat 3 was that you would kind of accidentally stumble onto those combos, and like it had a very visceral reaction to the way you would, I pressed these two buttons and it did a thing. All right, I'm going to try pressing these two buttons and then this other button and see if it chains together. And you can always really tell when it's chaining together. Whereas the combos in Killer Instinct were smoother, but they were very, it felt a little bit less in control. Whereas like you press like all these different buttons because you could really get ahead of yourself in those combos, and you could input a bunch of stuff ahead of time and then watch it play out. Whereas in Mortal Kombat, it was just like, da, 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 and every single one of those hits was you pressing a button. It just kind of, it chunked together really well. It wasn't as awesome as it could have been, and I don't think it was totally necessary, but then again, I don't make video games for a living.
And also, how much of Mortal Kombat 3's life is like, I mean, I don't know that this was necessary.
That's the thing. Like,
that's the story of Mortal Kombat.
Nobody liked Mortal Kombat 3, so they did Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, because why release a Mortal Kombat game without Scorpion, you idiots?
Yeah, that's
and then you put Scorpion back in.
Why did you take Sub-Zero's mask off and make him a fucking white dad from Ohio? I mean, no, not shitting on Ohio. From Saskatchewan. That's what he looked like. Fuck that guy.
There were a lot of weird choices in the design of that game.
Fuck Stryker.
It's just some dude with a gun.
Yeah. He's a riot cop. Is he? Good for you guys. Ugh, mocap.
Because he looks like a mall cap. Like a mall cop, not a riot cop. That's what he looks like.
A mall cap. He does look like a mall Captain America. All right, moving on to the Northeast region in the Thirsty 32. The 1 seed in the Northeast region, Super Street Fighter 4, taking on the 9 seed Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Nope, Street Fighter.
Yep, Street Fighter 4.
Fighter Z is super awesome, but no.
There's an argument to be made there, but I don't know that it's a good one.
I don't even know what the argument could possibly be.
I don't know. It looks better? Maybe?
Yeah, if we're just comparing how cool it looks, yeah, sure, I'll give you that.
All right. See, there's part of an argument. I didn't say it was a good one. I just said there was one. All right. The 2 seed in the Northeast region, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, taking on the 7 seed Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Ooh, okay. I did not think you were going there.
Brawl. I love that game, but if we're talking about being a good fighting game,
yeah,
like Brawl has a lot of random elements in it. It has tripping and stuff like that, which I think makes the game more fun. But as a party game, which is kind of like where a lot of the intent for the way I play it is, I love the chaos. But if you're not looking to play at high level competitive. Exactly. If we're not comparing it as a party game, we're comparing it as a fighting game. And like the Smash works on kind of both those levels because it's such a weird thing. Yeah. And if we're ranking it as a fighting game against, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, I just don't think it's much of a competition. Like Brawl's super fun, but Street Fighter Cross Tekken is like a legit good fighting game that incorporated these different elements of Tekken and Street Fighter and made them work in that respective formula. It's a good time. So as a fighting game, I got to go with that one. All right. I agree. I agree entirely. The 4 seed Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger taking on the 12 seed Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. I don't have a dog in this fight. Man, so I'm going to go with Godzilla because as much as Blaze Blue is a great 2D fighting game, it is... I don't know that it does enough to stand out from anything else. Much like what it was up against last week in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it's a 2D fighting game, and it's very competent at what it does. But there is a level of fun, I think, in Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee that is rare in fighting games. So that's where my heart's at. Cool. Sold. All right, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, the 12 seed that has just no shot in the next round. So it is what it and neither did Blaze Blue. So this is really a pointless game right here. Anyway, all right, this one I am going to whatever you want to go with because this one sucks for you. Okay. The 6 seed, Tatsunoko versus Capcom, taking on the 14 seed, one of our lowest ranked entries moving on to the next round from last week, the 14 seed, X-Men versus Street Fighter. Oof. And that one sucks for you, because I know how you feel about both of these. Yeah. I know you're feeling certainly stronger towards X-Men versus Street Fighter. I gotta go X-Men versus Street Fighter. Okay. Tatsunoko versus Capcom, I think, is brilliant, but it does have a couple of weird shortcomings, like the concept of being on the Wii. Yeah, being on the Wii is a little bit of a shortcoming, just from controller settings. That's the classic controller is great, but not everybody had one of those. Right. It was very good for that game, but if you wanted to, you kind of needed a special controller to play that properly. The whole thing where you could pick the giant characters, there were the 2 giant characters you could pick, like the robot from Lost Planet and the giant, muscle man guy. Yeah. It was very cool in concept, but they didn't really, I don't know, I didn't really think those characters were extraordinarily viable. Like, if you were playing against somebody who knew what they were doing, they weren't like Sentinel and X-Men versus Street Fighter that you could, find ways to make like just completely cheap or just really be genuinely good with.
Right.
They just kind of seemed like a bit of a novelty. There were also a couple of characters in Tatsunoko versus Capcom on the Tatsunoko side that I think moveset wise weren't spectacular, whereas I don't think there were any characters in X-Men versus Street Fighter that were bad. Like everybody it was more well balanced, I think.
Okay.
Overall roster wise. So
all right, I'm going with you on that one.
Tough choice, but I think X-Men vs Street Fighter has it.
All right. The Southeast region has some interesting matchups here, Chris. The 1 seed Virtua Fighter 4 taking on like kind of, and it's weird to say, but like the indie darling underdog kind of thing. The 8 seed Capcom versus SNK 2 Millennium.
Oh damn.
I mean, because I want to instantly say Virtua Fighter 4. But if I think about it, because Virtua Fighter 4 is a fucking masterpiece of a fighting game.
It really is. I mean, at the end of the day, though, I'm not going to choose Virtua Fighter if I'm going to play a game. Like, if I'm going to pick which one do I want to play right now, I'm going to pick the Capcom versus SNK. I just think that's more fun. But if I'm choosing which one's a better fighting game, I don't think there's an argument to be made that it isn't Virtua Fighter, because it's so incredibly in depth. It's so smartly designed. I think it's a better fighting game, but I don't necessarily think it's a more fun fighting game.
See,
not to say that it isn't fun. You know what I mean?
Because that's the thing. Some of the most fun I've ever had is relatively, quote unquote, high level Virtua Fighter play.
That's the thing. I'm not suggesting that Virtua Fighter isn't fun. It's extremely fun, but if there's just this little teeny tiny hint of extra fun on the Capcom S and SNK train because of the character roster, you get that crossover hilarity there, and plus, the history of like, well, it's Capcom and SNK in the same games, and like,
which is great. So cool. And we talked about it last week. I fucking adore that game.
Yeah,
I adore that game.
I think it's Virtua Fighter.
I think it's Virtua Fighter 4 as well. As much as it breaks my heart to say it, Capcom versus SNK 2 is not a very well balanced game. Like there are characters that are just unusable in that game. They're there because they're part of their respective franchises, but Virtua Fighter 4 is a fucking perfectly balanced game. It's exquisite, as the kids say. No kids say exquisite. All right. The 2 seed Street Fighter Alpha 3. I think this match is kind of a bloodbath too. Against the 7 seed Bushido Blade.
Yeah, Street Fighter Alpha 3.
All day long, twice on Sundays. All right, the 3 seed. Now, let's see where we go with this one. The 3 seed WWF No Mercy against the 6 seed Tekken Tag Tournament.
Huh.
I go No Mercy. Because No Mercy is a fighting game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with you on that. I
like Tekken Tag, but WWF No Mercy is one of the best fighting games of all time. All right. That was okay. The 4 seed, the final matchup in the Southeast region, Power Stone 2, the 4 seed, against, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and put it because you're going to fight me if we don't. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Yeah, it's Street Fighter 3.
Yeah.
Power Stone's awesome, but
it's not Third Strike.
It just is. Yeah, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the depth that Third Strike has. Power Stone's awesome. It's super awesome, but Third Strike it's up there with Virtua Fighter as far as just being a technical masterpiece as far as a fighting game is concerned.
Well, okay. All right, jumping now into the Sweet 16, Chris. This is where it gets really tough. We're going to start with the easier of the 2 matchups, and I don't know how much easier it is. The 2 seed Super Smash Bros. Melee against the 6 seed Mark of the Wolves. Right? It gets harder. Because, I mean, you know where I am on this one.
I do. My trouble is with this one is I don't have enough experience with Mark of the Wolves to say definitively.
I do.
I can say that, Melee is still very, very, very much a tournament game. Like, there's a lot of high-level play of Melee. However, that high-level play is down to a couple of characters. It's...
yeah.
I'm gonna have to agree. I'm gonna have to side with you and go with Mark of the Wolves.
That makes me so... The love that Mark of the Wolves is getting in this bracket this year makes me really, really happy. And really... Listeners, if you have not played Mark of the Wolves, I know we had some chatter about it on our Discord. I was too busy playing baseball and listening to Weezer to interact this past week, though. I know, but I do look at it. I'm very creepy that way. Like, I'm much more like read over your shoulder kind of guy and breathe on your neck than I am have a conversation with you. It makes me really happy. If you've never played it, you owe it to yourself to play this game. Like, it's not the greatest fighting game of all time. Maybe it is. I don't know. We'll see where we go with this. I don't know that it's the greatest fighting game of all time, but it is damn good and was wildly underplayed when it released, which is a fucking shame. All right. I think the more difficult choice here, Kris, though, is the 1 seed Soul Calibur taking on the 4 seed Super Street Fighter 2 HD Turbo Remix. Now, I know you want to say Soul Calibur right away. I know that you do. But I don't know if that's the right choice. I don't know that it's the wrong choice.
Well, let's think about it.
That Street Fighter game, I mean, because really what we have to do here is argue for Super Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate version of one of the ultimate fighting games. It's pick up and play.
Drop dead gorgeous.
It is. It does not animate extraordinarily well, but that's kind of by nature because, changing the way that game animates changes the game. The game is, they just redrew every frame that the original game has. So, Soul Calibur, however, there's a certain smoothness to Soul Calibur that's just unavoidably awesome. And it doesn't rely on, things like super moves or anything like that. It's just all about throws and 3D movement, and it's very, very good. But I don't know. I think
it's a tough choice, right?
It is a very tough choice.
It's tougher than I think it seems on the surface.
I think it's hard to put anything... It's hard to put much over Street Fighter 2, because we're basically talking about the ultimate form of Street Fighter 2.
Which is the game.
It's kind of like the fighting game.
Right. It is the reason that we are even alive today.
Right? We all would have been killed in the Great Street Fighter War.
The Great Street Fighter. No, I mean, but it is the reason that fighting games are a thing. Without question, it is unquestionably the most important fighting game of all time.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
That's not even up for debate, right?
But that's not what we're debating.
But that's not what we're debating. I mean, I think it has to be Soul Calibur, but I was ready to be convinced otherwise.
See, the thing about Street Fighter is, you can just pick up and play Street Fighter and it all makes sense, but you can also do that with Soul Calibur.
You can.
Anybody can pick up and play Soul Calibur and do neat things with button mashing. Like, it's got a hell of a personality.
I'm still going to lizard man the fuck out of you if you do that, but...
I think the difference is going to come down to, in Soul Calibur, you can change the intro. You can edit the intro in Soul Calibur.
All right.
And there's no cheap arcade mode fight against M. Bison,
That is a very good point. A very, very good point. I mean, you can't be mad about making it to the Sweet 16. You really can't. But
yeah, but I think at this
Soul
point,
Calibur takes it.
Street Fighter 2 is legendary. It's a masterpiece. But if it's going head to head with the first Soul Calibur, I just have to. Yeah, I gotta go Soul Calibur.
All right. Going into the Southwest region, we'll do what I think, again, is the easier of the two. Not that I know that it's an easy one. The 1 seed, Tekken 3, against the 13 seed, Mortal Kombat 2. I mean, if there are, apart from Street Fighter, 2 games that are more synonymous with arcade fighting game mania than Mortal Kombat 2 and Tekken 3, I'm not sure what they are.
It's clearly Tekken 3. I love Mortal Kombat 2 to death, and I will play that game over Tekken 3 any day of the week. But, I mean, I don't think there's an argument to be made that it's a better fighting game.
Yeah, I mean, I really was going to try, but I thought you were going to go with Mortal Kombat 2, so I was going to try and jump on the bandwagon with you. But you're right, it's got to be Tekken 3. It's a better game.
It just is.
It's just a better game.
I don't like it more, but
it is
trying
better.
To be objective, it's a better fighting game.
Yeah. I mean, they're yeah, okay. All right. Man, this one. All right, so the 2 seed, Soul Calibur 2, versus the 3 seed, Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. Pick a kid you like better, right? That's hard.
Here's where the bracket thing's killing me, because Soul Calibur 2 is better than Soul Calibur 1, in my opinion. But
I don't know if I can push
this past MVC.
I went back and looked at it, and it was overall user ratings. That is how the brackets broke down. That's where it went. Like, and then where there were ties, it was then on to sales to like determine the 1 seeds and whatever. So it's just the way the cookie crumbled this time.
I just don't know how I can put it over Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but if I'm trying to remove my own personal bias. Like, Soul Calibur 2 is so good, and there's so much content there, and there's so many interesting characters that are very unique. But Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has got 56 characters. Now, some of them are crap, but there's 56 of them.
But there's not one of them is unusable. Not one. Even that fucking cactus guy.
Not one of them is unusable, but there's nobody unused. Like, there's no fat in
Soul Calibur.
In Soul Calibur. Like, there's 2 Wolverines. Okay.
Yeah, no, sure.
You know, Thanos is in there, but he's not great because, you know, you've kind of adapted a boss character to be playable, and you didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it. There's, you know, they didn't put a lot of effort into reworking the sprites, you know what I mean? Some of them just don't look all that
is it Morgan
compatible. Oh yeah, the Morgan sprite's been the same forever, but you know, again, I'm thinking of like Thanos, and the moves that he did just didn't really line up extraordinarily well with the some of the newer ones like Cable. But then you've got like Ruby Hart and stuff. Like, okay, this character does things, she's usable, but who's using her? Like,
I use her.
I don't.
I used to.
I mean, why?
Here's where I think part of the argument in Marvel versus Capcom's favor. Because I very purposefully have said Soul Calibur 2. I haven't said Soul Calibur 2 on the Gamecube or Soul Calibur 2 on the PS2, because they were 3 distinctly different games with the inclusions of those sub-characters.
Yeah.
Right? Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube is by far the best version of that game. Right? I mean, is there an argument against that?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think there is either. I mean, when you have Link as your exclusive fighter on GameCube, Heihachi without a fucking weapon on the PlayStation 2 was the biggest slap in the face. And then Spawn, who is cool, but also who gave a shit about Spawn? I mean, really ever, if we're being honest, but especially at that point, it was like, all right, Todd McFarlane just got his fucking creation in here. Like, who cared? You know, so if you didn't have a GameCube and you had a PS2 and you're sitting there with Soul Calibur 2 and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, even though we all know that the Dreamcast version is infinitely superior, you're playing Marvel versus Capcom 2.
Absolutely.
Right? Over Soul Calibur 2. Because you're going to sit there and like, I don't think you can discount the amount of like, fuck you, when it was revealed that Heihachi was the secret fighter, or the console exclusive fighter without a weapon.
Yeah.
That was rage inducing at the time. And he turned out to not be utterly fucking useless, and like, there's some cool shit you could do with him
because
and all.
He's Heihachi. He's right. He was never going to be useless. He was just okay, but he's not Link.
But he ain't Link. I
don't know. It is a hard decision because Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is such a good game.
It's such a good game. It's such a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the best examples of 2D fighting that has ever been made.
Yeah, I agree. And it's got the whole tag team system. Like
tag team system is really cool.
It simplified the combos, but at the same time, it didn't turn them into, like, I know there was a lot of hardcore, fighters out there who would say they did turn it into baby mode, but I don't think that's necessarily true. It just kind of made it a little bit more accessible, but there's also still a whole lot of technical finesse involved. Yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I agree.
All right.
I love Soul Calibur 2, and I hate to do it. I love
Soul Calibur 2. I love it.
It is what it is.
Right? This is what I said. Like, pick your favorite kid. You know what I mean? That's hard. All right, in the Sweet 16 for the Northeast version, again, this was the one that I'm just going to move Super Street Fighter 4 over because Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee does not hold a candle.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. As much as I would like it to, that's an easy choice. That is steamrolling its way through the competition. The 2 seed, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, taking on the 14 seed X-Men versus Street Fighter. Now, the argument has been Street Fighter Cross Tekken is a better game a lot of the times the other 2 times that we've talked about it. Is it a better game than X-Men versus Street Fighter? Because now we're just talking Capcom.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have enough experience with Street Fighter Cross Tekken. It might be.
I mean, I don't have enough experience really to say either.
Yeah, I can't really say definitively. I have to default to X-Men vs. Street Fighter because I have a ton of experience with that game, whereas I don't have much experience at all with Street Fighter Cross Tekken. They're great, but I can't say which one's... I couldn't say definitively which one's better, so I have to default to the one that I know. So X-Men vs. Street Fighter gets my vote.
All right, mine too. All right. The Sweet 16 in the Southeast region will do... Man, I mean, these are difficult, I think, for both of them. The 2 seed, Street Fighter Alpha 3, taking on the 3 seed, WWF No Mercy. Now, I mean,
I gotta go Street Fighter Alpha 3.
I know you do. I don't know that you could pick 2 more different games here, right? I mean, and I have to agree with you. One, because I want to see where this goes, as I'm watching the bracket develop here and you're not. So I'm really curious to see what happens in the next round. But I don't think there's an argument to be made that No Mercy is a better fighting game than Alpha 3.
Yeah, Alpha 3's it's outstanding. Like I said last time, it was called Street Fighter Perfection for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, No Mercy is outstanding. But
agreed.
I agree that, there is an argument to be made that we are stretching the definition of fighting game a little bit by including stuff like No Mercy. Right? But it's my bracket, so fuck you. I'll do what I want. And also, I want to move us along. So, Street Fighter Alpha 3. All right, the 1 seed, Virtua Fighter 4, taking on the 5 seed. I know what Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Third Strike.
Really not even a conversation?
Not for me personally. I just think Third Strike is too damn good. And I appreciate everything Virtua Fighter 4 does. It's damn masterpiece, but I don't think it's Third Strike.
Yeah, I mean it's not. it's not. All right, Street Fighter.
It doesn't have the personality of Third Strike. Like when you really want to break it down to like what is a technically better fighting game, I think those two are just neck and neck. So then it comes down to style. And I mean, Virtua Fighter 4 is super super cool, but it doesn't have the characters, the weird stuff, the weird characters of Street Fighter 3. It doesn't have that amazing hand-drawn animation. It doesn't have that soundtrack. Like Street Fighter 3 Third Strike just has this very, very specific personality and character that so few other games have. It's outstanding.
I mean, the biggest argument for me is that I played a lot of Virtua Fighter 4. A lot of Virtua Fighter 4. I could not tell you right now, gun to my head, children's life on the line, the name of the character that I used the most. Couldn't do it. I'm sitting here trying to think of it. It was the old man. Couldn't do it.
The drunk guy, right?
Yep. Could not tell you his name. So it's got to be.
I can't either.
It's got to be Third Strike. It has to be.
I want to say Bo Right Show, but that's Mortal Kombat.
That's Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I mean, like, and that's on me and like bad fan and all of that. Sure, like I'll take all of those criticisms, but if I'm naming fighting game characters and whatnot, that dude, and I used him a lot, and the young French guy too, that like the boxing kid who was new in that game, I can't fucking tell you his name either.
Ditto.
You know what I mean? Like I can tell you Akira and I can tell you fucking Wolf and shit, but yeah. All right, it's Third Strike. All right, moving on to the Elite 8. All right, we've got 8 left, making our way down to the final 4 here. All right. The Elite 8 in the Northwest region, the 1 seed Soul Calibur taking on the 6 seed Mark of the Wolves.
Sorry, Mark of the Wolves, you've come this far, but Soul Calibur.
Yep, as much as I love Mark of the Wolves, I don't even think that is very close at all.
Unfortunately, me too, but the battle was well fought. Good job, Mark of the Wolves, getting as far as you did.
Yes. Great game. Go play it. Go play that game. All right, in the Southwest region, Tekken 3, the 1 seed, against the 3 seed Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Say that one more time. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 versus what now?
The 3 seed Marvel vs. Capcom 2 versus the 1 seed Tekken 3.
Well, I mean, this is another one of those things where I really just have to boil it down to experience, and since I don't have as much experience with Tekken 3, I gotta go with MVC 2.
I mean, that's what I was going to go with as well. It's also the most interesting matchup in the next round. So I like that. All right, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, moving on. The Northeast region, again, this one, I'm just going to default to you. I know where my heart lies, but I'm not going to disagree with whatever choice you make here, Kris, because I love you and respect you. In the Northeast region, the 1 seed Super Street Fighter 4 versus the 14 seed X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Super Street Fighter 4.
Yeah, I didn't think that one was very close either.
No. I got a lot of love for that one, but Super Street Fighter 4 is so incredibly in depth and it has a better character selection. It's outstanding.
All right, now this one, the Southeast region. I want you to take your personal bias aside. All right, just throw it away, Kris.
All right, I'm trying.
Objective. I know how hard it is for you,
it's Clay Fighter.
Especially Clay Fighter. 100%. Moving on. Next
63
week,
1/3 specifically,
and that's our show. The 2 seed Street Fighter Alpha 3, Street Fighter Perfection, Kris. Taking on the 5 seed Third Strike.
I've actually thought about this a lot. So it's not really something that I have to put a lot of thought into right now. I go Third Strike on this one.
Okay.
Street Fighter Alpha 3 has characters that I like better, but it also has characters that are complete throwaways, like Julie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of like chinks in its armor. It got better through various other versions. Like Alpha 3 Max is great, except that it's on PSP and therefore constrained by certain aspects of like the resolution of the PSP and trying to play it on television or with a proper controller, because you have to play it on a PSP. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're
talking about
if
Alpha
we're talking
3.
just vanilla Alpha 3, like even just specifically the arcade version, not Alpha 3 for say PlayStation, like, which is probably the best version. The Dreamcast one is spectacular, but then again, you have to play it with a Dreamcast controller. So I would default to the PlayStation 1 version.
Not for fighting games anyway.
No. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike has what that doesn't, which is the parry system, and that's really what sets it aside. You can have all the characters in the world, but when you have, even if you have better character designs, I will pick Guile over Remy any day of the week, but Remy in Third Strike is more interesting to play than Guile in Alpha 3, I think, because of the parry system. It changes everything, and
it's just a better game.
Yeah, the risk reward to it and all that. And I've had this conversation before, so that wasn't really a hard decision to make now. I think Third Strike's better than Alpha 3.
Yeah, I do not disagree with you. All right, that brings us down to our final four, playing for the championship game and then the third place games. All right, in the North or in the Western Conference. All right, the 1 seed Soul Calibur against the 3 seed Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Soul Calibur versus Marvel. This is like,
I mean,
what's your favorite Dreamcast game, Dan?
Is that not the question?
That is the question. Soul Calibur versus Marvel versus Capcom 2. New Age of Heroes.
What are you playing?
I'll take you for a ride. Or welcome back to the stage of history. God, those two character select screens.
I mean,
it's so ingrained.
So you're sitting there, right? And you got Soul Calibur and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in front of you. Man, what are you going with?
I mean, when
you and I have had this very conversation and it's not a conversation of which are we playing and which are we shitting on. It's which are we playing first.
Exactly. Which one are we playing first? I mean, if we want to talk about just the actual core of the game itself, that's a really difficult conversation. But if you want to talk about, little extras, like, okay, the Soul Calibur let you do that weird direct to the intro thing. Soul Calibur had cute little chibi versions of the characters that played on your VMU while you pressed the buttons. Marvel vs. Capcom didn't really do that. Unlocking characters in Soul Calibur is relatively straightforward. Unlocking characters in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is 8 bitches on a bitch boat, because you got to get all these points and go in and out of the shop, in and out of the shop over and over again, and wait for somebody that you want to
be in the shop.
To be in the shop. I mean, but those are little things. You know what I mean? Those are the little things. Then you get, okay, here is this amazingly 56 character roster versus this considerably smaller roster, but a much tighter roster. Yes, Astaroth and Rock are incredibly similar characters. Yes,
but Marvel vs. Capcom 2 doesn't have Lizard Man.
That is correct.
I will die at the altar of Lizard Man.
Yes, because Lizard Man is amazing. But if we're looking at, like, Lizard Man is Sophitia.
Whatever.
Sungmina is Kilik.
Right.
Like, most of the characters in that game are duplicated to some extent. They're palette swaps, for lack of a better word. They're totally different character designs, but they're, the same polygons moving in the same way. They're very similar, but they are different enough so that they become more like a later game Ken versus Ryu. Like, they're not Street Fighter 2 Ken versus Ryu. They're like Street Fighter 3 Ken versus Ryu.
Right.
So
you could play Lizard Man against Sophitia and have an interesting fight.
Yeah, they're different enough.
Yeah.
That it works, even though they are effectively based on the same moveset.
I mean, because you know what, when you and I had these conversations and sat down at the Hall of Justice to play games, we always went to Soul Calibur.
Yeah, because, I mean, Soul Calibur.
I love Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
As do I.
Love that game. But it's got to be Soul Calibur.
I agree. I do think it's got to be Soul Calibur. I think there's more to it that's more... there's more room for creativity, I think, in the way you fight against somebody in Soul Calibur than there is in Marvel vs. Capcom. I think it's very easy if you play against a pro in Marvel vs. Capcom to just have it turn into a match of like, well, he started a combo and I can't do anything about it. Whereas if you're playing against, a complete idiot playing against a pro in Soul Calibur, you're just going to be in awe at the way you get picked apart. Instead of just being like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like, it's going to be like, oh, how are you doing that? Oh, that's,
right.
Now I'm dead. Yeah, I think it's Soul Calibur.
All right. In the Eastern region, the 1 seed, Kris, Super Street Fighter 4, against the 5 seed, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
See, now this is another one that I've actually had the conversation of already. Like,
right.
I've had these conversations with my friends before. Like, well, which one's the better game? And for me, it's got to be Street Fighter 4. Fighter 3.
I was not even a little bit expecting that.
Well, here's the thing about Street Fighter 4 is that Street Fighter 2 was, this is the fighting game for everybody. Everybody can pick up Street Fighter 2 and it's just this awesome thing. Street Fighter 3 was the complete opposite of that. Nobody can pick up Street Fighter 3 because if somebody, it's not very accessible. It's incredible once you learn it, and it makes you want to learn it because it's so gorgeous. But especially Third Strike, but when you get up against that wall of the parrying system, it just becomes a totally different game. So when they did Street Fighter 4, they were so incredibly smart about it because they hit that balance, and they hit a perfect balance between the technicality of Street Fighter 3 Third Strike and the accessibility of Street Fighter 2, which is one of the things I think is really underrated about Street Fighter 4, because the problem with the perception of Street Fighter 4 is that it's not Street Fighter 3, Right. The pros were like, this game's it's not as good as Street Fighter 3, right? But it kind of is. They're just judging it based on like what they expected the next Street Fighter to be, as opposed to what it is, which is why once the game had been out for a while, by the time you got to like the arcade edition and you're watching these high-level tournaments, those matches are incredible to watch, because it's not just somebody picking the other person apart. It's not just somebody doing incredible combos and destroying somebody like in a Marvel vs. Capcom game. They become these incredible dances. And Street Fighter V has picked up on that, though I don't like Street Fighter V nearly as much as 4, again, because of the character thing. I don't like the way it looks, and I don't think it has it doesn't have the same kind of personality. Whereas, man, when you watch high-level play of Street Fighter 4, when you watch two people who really know what they're doing in Street Fighter 4, that tension is palpable. And when you watch two people who don't know what they're doing play Street Fighter 4, the fun is palpable. And sometimes the tension becomes that way too. It was designed like a 2D fighter, like a sprite-based 2D fighter, but it was dynamic as a 3D fighter because it was done with the polygonal graphics. So you have 2D fighting hitboxes layered on top of polygonal stuff, so you can get those really cool looking super moves. Then you've got the roster that is so much more interesting than the roster in Street Fighter 3. Street Fighter 3 introduced a lot of great characters, but it also introduced a lot of weirdos like 12, which is like, okay, but who's really playing as 12? He's cool looking,
Nobody.
But he's not all that great. Necro is incredibly bizarre, and he's got some neat moves, but you've really got to be careful with Necro. Like, you have to want to be a Necro player. You're not going to pick Necro and be able to be like, no, this guy is on this level. It's like, no, you've got to get him on that level. Street Fighter 4 has a larger roster, but was a more balanced roster.
Yeah.
And like we said before, even when you get complete weirdos like Hakan, like, it's still
Rufus.
Or Rufus. See, like, I didn't like Rufus, but at least you could say that he was balanced. I thought that was a crappy character design, but I think Hakan's a super cool character design. Juri is a super cool character design. El Fuerte. I don't know why people hate on El Fuerte. I think that
El
guy's
Fuerte.
awesome. He's super cool.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get an argument from me. Super Street Fighter 4 is outstanding. And
I think that's actual Street Fighter perfection.
All of the things that you brought up about Street Fighter 3 Third Strike are 100% how I feel. That game is a fucking masterpiece. It's hard. It is frustratingly hard to learn.
Yeah, it's got a high bar of entry. It doesn't have that casual
There's
thing.
A lot of shit in it. There's a lot of like, this is fucking terrible. Like, this is just a boring, stupid design and a dumb character that nobody's going to use. And yeah, all right. So going on to our third place, the bronze medal game then.
Gil is shit too. I just got to throw that out there. Gil, as far as the last boss.
Shit. Awful.
Boo. You got a dude who's like half blue, half red, and a thong.
Yeah, it's not a good design. It sucks. So now that we've shit all over Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, the 5 seed Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is taking on the 3 seed Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for the bronze medal game.
And I gotta go with Third Strike.
Really?
Much
Over
as I love
Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
I adore Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but then, I think they're both about as, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is super cool, but
it's so much easier to jump into.
It is so much easier to jump into.
So much easier to jump into. And if we're taught, like, again, sitting there, if I'm sitting down and I've got Soul Calibur and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in front of me, I'm picking Soul Calibur every day. If I'm sitting down and I've got MVC2 and Third Strike in front of me, I'm picking MVC2.
I'm picking Third Strike.
I mean, I like Third Strike a lot, but I will agree that the highs in Third Strike are higher than they are in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But I would also argue that the lows in Third Strike are lower than Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that.
All right, well, we got to go to Tiff the tiebreaker on this one,
right,
Chris.
yeah.
Are you going to be mad?
I mean, I can't be mad that we're arguing about two of the best fighting games ever, but I mean, I don't think it's my personal preference. I got to go with Third Strike. I think that's a better fighting game.
All right. Well, we're going to see here, Evan. You're going to have to do a little editing as I wait for the wife to respond.
Gotta go down and pick up the wife. We're gonna have the sex.
All right, I've texted. We're waiting now. Waiting by
the phone. Waiting for you to call me up and
a fucking Soul Asylum song. Man. So that song is great.
Yeah,
the rest of that album, nowhere near as good as that song.
I don't know that I'd say nowhere near, but
no.
Well,
There's
maybe
one
if you're
or
talking
two.
about a collective, but Without a Trace, that's a great song.
Without a Trace is a good song. What was the one about the train?
Runaway Train, yeah, I like that song.
Runaway Train's good.
Yeah.
But like, all right, the results are in, Chris. It's Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Fair enough.
All right. I mean, she voted.
I disagree, but the votes are what they are.
They are. I'm really curious to see where the listeners fall on that one.
Yeah.
If it's Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or Third Strike. I mean, because you just did a really good job shitting all over Third Strike. So,
but at the same time, I'm shitting on it in comparison to the other one. Yeah,
it's fucking great. I don't disagree. I mean, you're like 3 and 3A right there, I think. All right, now this one, here it is, Chris. For all the marbles, the gold and silver will be decided between the 1 seed in the Western region, the Western Conference, Soul Calibur, and the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, Super Street Fighter 4.
See, I really just wanted to gut reaction it, but I got to think about it. I got to think about this.
Yeah, I mean, because I'll tell you right now, like, I will gut reaction it at first, and then we can talk through it.
All right, what was your gut reaction?
Soul Calibur.
See, my gut reaction is Street Fighter 4.
Okay.
I will say that there is nothing in the entirety of Soul Calibur that feels as good as pulling off Ryu's Shin Shoryuken.
Sure. I'll give you that.
God, the way that move animates, just that first gut punch.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome.
So good.
It's awesome. But is it Soul Calibur?
It's not Soul Calibur, it's Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And when it when it boils down to, for me personally, when it really all comes down to it, am I more of a 3D fighter or a 2D fighter? And I think as fighting games go, as far as just being genuinely interesting, I think that Street Fighter takes it. And I think what really puts it over the top, like objectively puts it over the top, is there's no such thing as a ring out in Street Fighter.
That's very true.
The only thing that really holds back Soul Calibur, generally speaking, is the ring out. And I wish it didn't exist in that game, because it can,
Me too.
It can throw an entire match in an instant. And those moments in Soul Calibur when you break apart, like when we got really good at that game and we'd get in there and we'd mix it up and then we'd both back off. Yeah. And like, that's one of those experiences you don't really get in Street Fighter. There's always spacing. There's always a matter of, like, you know, figuring out how far away from each other you want to be. But in Soul Calibur, you do these things where you would just be really far away from each other.
Yeah.
You're like, all right,
I got to get the fuck away for a minute.
Who's going to charge in? And then when they do, what's going to happen? Are they going to charge in and do the dive kick? Or are they going to charge in and they're going to juke to the side and then try to throw me or something like that? It has this whole extra thing to it. But you could also do the thing where you just get somebody near the edge of a stage and then, you know, pull your throw off, and then all of a sudden the entire match is backwards because you've got a ring out.
Especially in Soul Calibur 2 with Link.
Oh my God, yeah.
That was just not fair.
I mean, it was, if you knew how to fight against it. Like, you had to just be aware of your surroundings. But if you didn't know where Link was going to throw you, you could get ring out super easy.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe not fair is not the best way to put it, but it certainly wasn't any fucking fun to have to deal with that.
Yeah, you get over there, he does that move where he jumps over your arm and throws you. Yeah, that was the super ring outs. But that's what I consider a major drawback in Soul Calibur, right, even though it has those other wonderful moments. But then you have something like Street Fighter 4, which doesn't have the ring out problem. It has that you can still create those levels of intensity, but without the prospect of being, you know, thrown out of the ring or just having the match thrown in a moment's notice. It's got more options as far as counterattacks. It's got the, you know, the super moves. It's got the focus things. You've got all this risk reward. I think it's a better game. I
mean, now, like I said, gut reaction was Soul Calibur, but it's Super Street Fighter 4.
I 100% agree.
It's Super Street Fighter 4. And again, you know, like, as you were sitting there talking about it, like, those were the same things that instantly started popping up in my head too. Like, the ring outs, it's not fun. It's just not fun. I understand it's an element of strategy and all of that stuff. To me, personally, it's not as much fun as a straight 2D fighter. And that's not old man yelling at clouds. That is just a preference, you know. And Super Street Fighter 4 is just, it's fucking sublime.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right. So that's the end. We're all done cutting down the fucking nets. The gold medal, the number one with a bullet game, Super Street Fighter 4 is the winner of this year, the Mania tournament for 2021. Second place is Soul Calibur. third place is the hotly contested Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
I like it.
I like it too, right? Because there were a lot of easy choices, but there were a lot of, there were some difficult choices here.
Of course there were, yeah.
Because I'm good at my job, Kris.
You are good at your job, Dan.
All right. Well,
gosh damn it.
I'm going to call it there, Kris. That's our show.
That is our show.
All right. Join us next week.
Before you do your thing,
I'm sorry. I had a spiel. I was right about to jump into it. Cut me off, though.
Well, I'm just doing my best to be you.
I know you're going to say something, but let me talk for 20 minutes about some shit.
I just wanted to say that we're going to throw these brackets out there. We want to see what you do with these brackets. Like, we didn't do it beforehand because we didn't really want to have see yours and then have that influence us. We wanted to go in this blind. But now that we're done, we're going to put these brackets out there, and we want to see what you guys come up with, and we can talk about that on the show next week.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. So we'll post that. Look for those on I suppose we'll just put them up on the Discord and the Facebook?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Something like that. I don't know. Kris will handle that. I don't do any of that shit. I mean, you guys know. You know me. But anyway, so back to where I was. Join us next week for the 10, 20, 30, 40 for the month of May, where we talk about games that came out 10, 20, 30, and 40 years ago. Agree, disagree with tonight's winners? Want to start a petition to have me host more or less? Well, we're on most social media platforms, and if you want to get in touch with us, well, we aren't very difficult to find. All it takes is a quick look at our show notes, and you'll see links to our social media accounts, as well as all manner of other fun stuff, like a link to our namesake, StoneAgeGamer.com, the Geekade Patreon, which helps us keep this show running week after week, and more useful links than you can shake a joystick at. This show's theme song, Squared Roots, was written by Banjo Guy Ollie. You can learn all about his wonderful music, how to build a shed and lay some fucking paver stones and make a driveway, and more by following the link to his YouTube channel, also in the show notes. And finally, as always, we'd like to offer a laurel and hearty handshake to our intrepid editor, Evan, and a way to be, Duck, to Angie for making this show listenable for all you folks. We'd like to thank all you folks for listening in the first place. That's it, everyone. For Evan Goldstein, Angela Fernot, Kris Randazzo, the original cast of Fiddler on the Roof, my 7th grade history teacher, Mr. Heidi Mark, Norm MacDonald's Burt Reynolds impression on the SNL Celebrity Jeopardy, the ghost of Patrick Swayze, and Dan Ryan, I am Dan Ryan.